So what I ended up doing is making a lot of my own custom parts. Dude, what? Turns out overconfidence has struck. It has been a long time since I made a video on the 944 here, and it's been almost a year since I think I posted anything. So I've done a lot in this car, a lot's been progressing, and I'll explain it all in this video. So first up, it's been a year since I've made anything on the 944 or showing you guys anything, because a lot of roadblocks have come up and, kind of going through one by one here. So the main thing is that I couldn't find the full 07K swap kit for the 944. So, because they basically, Booster Brothers quit making them, or, not necessarily quit making them, but there was a transfer of ownership from one guy to another, and now the new guy, he's doing great, but just, they weren't making as many kits, and kind of trying to find new suppliers. I don't blame them. But I had to, I wanted to do the swap, and, I took my engine out, the owner swapped, and I couldn't get any kits. So what does the guy do? So what ended up happening is that I went out, tried to find the kit, couldn't really find one. Not a whole kit that people were selling. Of course, now that I say that, a bunch of people have sold theirs. I found a guy selling his engine mounts and the trans adapter, which those are the main things that I need, and then also an IABED adapter block. So I ended up finding those. So I got the two engine mounts on either side here, and then the trans mount, or trans adapter, of the bell housing right here, and then, both engine mounts. So other than that, I needed cooling system parts. I needed flywheel, clutch, which I ended up buying those off Booster Brothers Garage. But, I needed cooling system parts. I needed intake, oil pan, exhaust, all these things. And then ECU, harness. And I didn't buy any of those off Booster Brother because they didn't have them. They didn't have them at the time. So what I ended up doing is making a lot of my own custom parts. And that's what's been taking so long. That's what took me that whole year. So we're going to go over a couple of different things, and you've probably already seen it from this stuff I've shown you. So some parts I've made, like for the cooling system, oil system, that intake, and we're going to go over a couple other things that you guys would love to see. So, all right, first up, the cooling system. I made 3 different custom parts of the cooling system. So the first one is this hard line here. You can see I made a bracket here for this 1.25" tube, steel tube that I bent up, and then that goes up and then over to the back of the engine. I didn't like the way Booster Brothers did it anyways, so I ended up doing it myself. So then this way it can go right past the turbo, and then this won't melt or get hot, or like rubber hose is going to burst if it gets too hot. So that's why I made that. So I made that hard line, and then I also made a cooling housing adapter that went from obviously the cooling housing, the stock cooling housing, to a 1.8T neck with the stock flange. The Booster Brothers goes up and around. I didn't like that. I wanted to go down, and you can see here, if you look, the hose comes right there, over, down, and then through by the power steering pump, clears everything down here. It's really close, but it clears, and then it goes up to that neck there.
So in this part of the clip, I accidentally shot it in vertical. So as you can see here on the right, that's me pointing it out on the car, and then on the left is showing it in Fusion 360.
So I did that, and then I couldn't find a rear housing from Booster Brothers Garage, so I ended up making one of those too. So here's what I did for that. You can see I 3D modeled it. I first printed it in PLA to test it and make sure it fit. This is PPACF, which is basically nylon carbon fiber reinforced filament. And this is really good against water, temperature, and then, chemicals and stuff like that. So I made this part. It's got the stock sensor location on the top there. And then it's got, I think an 1.25" neck here on the outside. And then what it does is it has an O-ring groove on the inside here. And then that is what seals against that tube coming out of the engine. I've got a little bit of RTV in there for testing because I was trying to hold the O-ring in there a little bit better, and that worked. This isn't the one on the car. The one on the car right now is a lot better finish. But what I ended up doing to really seal in this part and make sure it was going to work is I use this stuff called Dick tool, however you want to say it. But this stuff goes into the pores of the part and really make sure it seals and really make sure it's a good part. So that's what I did for the rear coolant housing here. So if we go to the back of the engine here, you can see that custom neck I have back there that's printed out of that nylon. And the sensor's in the top, hose in the bottom, and there's actually water in it right now, and you can see that it's all sealed up. And then obviously I'm still going to do some wiring there, but this works, and I'm going to test it here pretty soon. That's everything for the cooling system. There's a couple other parts, like there's a valve I'm installing. So I'm using one off Amazon actually, and you can see it here. I'm using this as my heater core valve. And then on the back there, you can see, I'll show you, I'm using this 1.8T splitter I believe it's off 1.8T, but it's a connection here, and then it splits off where this hose is, but I get it blocked right now. I'm going to use that to go to my heater core, and then that valve to, control whether it's on or off, and then I'll return on the back side of the coolant housing. So that's all the stuff I've done for the cooling system, custom-wise. Probably one of the bigger things I've done is I actually made my own oil pan. I couldn't find one from Booster Brothers. They weren't making them. They were having a hard time making them. So I said, screw it. I modeled mine all up in Fusion 360, and then I made it all out of sheet steel, tacked it all together, and then brazed the whole pan together. So that, including with I also made my own pickup, which I'll show on screen. I actually filmed this whole video already with my phone, but I had it pointing the wrong way, stupid mistake.
Here is the model of the upper oil pan. All of these parts were cut out of flat sheet steel on a plasma table and then assembled. It's a near one-to-one copy of the original upper oil pan, as you can see the Mesh 3D scan to work with. Now onto the actual made part in the car.
But here's the pan. So here's the front of the pan. And mind you, so this is all tacked together, and then it was brazed with just like some standard brazing rod. And that's where you see the gold there, and the paint flank it off a little bit, but the gold there is the braze rod. But front pan, it's the full pan. It still have the rivet trays inside, and I can go more over that with a 3D model, but you can see here, it works pretty well. I've got 2 ghost bolts because I need to go to the hardware store. But otherwise, oil return on the side of the pan there, just like BBG does it. And then pretty much my own design from there. It fits really well. I got some JB Weld there because I dropped it and cracked the corner. Haven't had time to take it off and fix it, so I'll have to do that. Well, other than that, I mean, it fits pretty snug in there. Yeah. Rear cover, got that all in there. It's not perfect, but honestly, this is one of my first things I did for this car was make this oil pan. It took me a long time, but I got it working. It seals and it works, so I'm really happy with it. So some other things we did was, for this project, I want to go turboed, and that means probably making the fuel system a little bit better. So what we did is I had me and my dad went through the whole car. We were using the stock fuel lines from the back to the front, but what we did is we brought our own fuel pump in here. So I don't know what fuel pump this is, but I believe it's a Phytech, so I'm probably going to have to replace it in the future. Classic Phytech stuff. But stock hose from here, and then AN fittings all the way over. Got a filter here, the custom aftermarket filter. I forget who this is from. I'll put it on the screen, but big filter here so we can do E85 in the future. And that goes over, and then we do to hard line right here. Got some hard and a hard line, and that goes to the front of the car through here. And then we have more hard line connections up there, which we go from, once again, we go from the hard line, then back to AN line, and I'll drop the car down and show you the rest of the setup. Looking past the wiring mess, the fuel lines come up from right here. They go behind the engine. You can start seeing them right here. And this is kind of the fuel res setup now, where there's shit everywhere. But the fuel line, this is the fuel line. Let's see. Fuel line in is this one, right? So it goes in to our regulator over here. It goes out on this side, and then that goes up to the fuel rail. And then we have our return right here out the bottom. So this is not a full return setup. It'll come out this side and then return back. I'm probably gonna end up doing that in the future. Just now, I wanted to, make sure the engine ran and, had this set up. But that is basically the full AN setup on this car. Don't mind it too much, because remember, I had to get my own ECU and then also do my own wire harness. So what I ended up doing is I had a buddy of mine who I was friends with who said, do a Mega Squirt. It's going to be hard, but you're going to learn a lot. And you can pretty much do whatever you want with the Mega Squirt. So I said, all right, let's do it. Plus, it was the cheapest one I could get. That's probably the most important part. So when you look at the wiring here, I'm going to show you guys in a second. I'm actually taking it all out. I'm going to redo it because we had to do a lot of testing and kind of development with this new ECU. I shouldn't say new ECU, but there's only a couple of guys running this ECU. Mega Squirted the 07K before. So we had to do a lot of figuring out, and what it came down to was we had 2 bad sensors. Both our crank and cam sensors were bad when I pulled this engine out of the junkyard. Don't do that. Just get new sensors. That was so much time we wasted on doing that. But hey, it is what it is. So I'm going to redo all the wiring. Heavily developmental, but don't worry about it. Just look past it, please. But here we go. So this is pretty much the crown jewel right here. This is the intake I made. I developed this in Fusion 360 off of the stock intake, but then obviously it's all aluminum, and then it's a two-piece CNC plenum welded together, and then it's a sheet aluminum intake, and then this is the other CNC part, aluminum throttle body plate, and then this is the VR6 throttle body that we adapted to. But I made this all up, and Fusion 360 had a guy CNC'd out, had another buddy of mine weld it together.
All right, here's the first version of the intake that I made, and this is the one on the car. And you can see this side, that's the O-ring side to the engine. Pretty much all modeled after the stock intake, so stock intake injector angle and stuff like that. We'll take off the plenum here, and you can see kind of that horn shape I've put on, or the donut shape I've put on there to smooth out the airflow as it enters the runners. Now on to the second version of this intake. It's pretty much the same thing of the O-rings on this side, except for the plenum is a lot different. This is a version I made for the Audi. I think it's going in a B5, I believe it is. And a lot of upgrades here. You can see I'll take away the plenum, and you can see that much bigger donut shape to smooth out the airflow even more. And then a lot of upgrades, including O-ring seals around the outside, and then making it modular now. So instead of it being a two-piece, it's a three-piece manifold, so I can do more with it in the future.
That's what this is, and that took a long time. This took months of time. I think maybe honestly 4 to 5 months, I think, is what it was at full, designing, testing, and 3D printing these parts out, and just making sure it would work. And it uses the stock gaskets and then stock fuel rail locations. You can pretty much use whatever, or the stock fuel rail for like an 07K on this one. And then all my sensors on everything on there on the bottom. Hopefully you guys can see that. But, stock sensors on the bottom. Or sensors all on the bottom. So yeah, this is the intake. I'll show more on a Fusion 360. For the exhaust here, all I did was it's a Spa manifold. This is the one Booster Brothers recommended. I got it right off of Spa's website. And then what I did is it's just a pipe straight down. It's a turbo T3 flange, T4 flange to a 3-inch adapter. And all I did was I just basically took some 3-inch pipe I had, and I cut it up with a grinder and then welded it on. And that's my test tube. And then there's a O2 sensor in the back there you can see. So a little bit hobcobbled, but we're making it work. And then for those of you who noticed the intake, why is this cut like this? Because this is the stock plastic valve cover. So what happened is I went to an internship over the summer, and I had to cut this down for transport, so I cut this down, stuffed rags in here so I could transport it, because the stock plastic cover does not fit clearance with the hood. So, luckily, I got a new one. Don't freak out. I got one. Nice anodized black, and we'll be putting that on. I'm probably going to put that on right now. But other than that, really, all I did was clean up the engine bay and put this black mat, this reflective heat mat on the sides, to reduce noise in the cabin and then heat in the cabin. And that's also kind of what they had stock, but it was, it's old, crusty, 80s, I don't know, maybe asbestos, who knows. So that's all I did there. Yeah, that's pretty much all I've been doing. I ended up getting a AC to power steering conversion kit here, and that's just running with the stock lines. They're a little bit bent up right now. I'm not too happy about that. I'm going to figure something else out, but it pretty much is together. The wiring I'm going to pull out, redo, and make nice again. So currently, inside the car, it's a mess. Bad. But you can see kind of what's going on here is we have our Mega Squirt down here, more of the wiring junk. This is an AEM AFR gauge, yep. And then I'm doing I had this, it's like a solid state relay block that I'm using to control everything. So fuel, fans, AC, whatever I wanted to do, that's what I'm going to do. And I got a couple more things coming for this car that I'll probably show in a later video. But it's torn apart, not looking good. It's going to be good enough, though, for this weekend, where what's happening this weekend is we're going to go through both maps, so fuel, spark, get a good idle, get a cold start, or, get the cold start ready. So that's what's going on this weekend. So I got to get this car ready for this. So let's finish it up, and let's get it started. All right, so what I have left to do before we can run it is I have to put the fans in. So those just go right up there. We'll just slide them in, put them in, fix these hoses up a little bit, hook up the wiring, and then on top, we're going to put that valve cover on that I showed you guys earlier, and then I got a little bit of wiring to do. I'm not going to show that. It's pretty boring stuff. I got to wire in the oil pressure sensor, and then wire back up the coolant sensor that you guys saw earlier. Obviously, it wasn't connected. So that, and then really we're ready to go. All right, so one thing I'm gonna do here before we get started is I'm going to test to see if this switch right here is basically if I need the engine harness, the stock engine harness, because I removed that. So what I want to do is I'm going to disconnect it, I'm going to jump it, and then see if the fans turn on. Because if they don't turn on, that means I won't have cooling fans for when I run it and, you know, for this weekend, right, for the tuner. I'm going to jump it, we're going to put the key on, the battery's hooked up, I'm going to put the key on, and then we're going to see if they turn on when I jump them. Basically, the circuit's closed, and hey, we need fans, turn them on. So we're going to go ahead and get this shot now. Keys on. Let's see what happens. Maybe. Hold by this one, put this one in here. Okay, nothing. Okay, let's jump it now and try that. Just get him to touch. And hold there. I can hear stuff happening when I do that, so okay. Let's go get a jumper. Got myself a little jumper here. So we're just gonna jump up together. See what happens. I'm not cutting my fingers off, challenge. Perfect. Oh, we know it works. Awesome. Worst case scenario, we can jump that out and then turn the fans on, but I think we're good. I found the bolts for the radiator fan. Only had to look through some stuff, you know, keep it organized, you know. When you put away a project for a year, you know, you got to keep everything organized and just kind of, you know, throw everything together in one big box, and you'll find it eventually. Yeah. Hey, can you guys hold these for me for a little bit? Thanks. Turns out, overconfidence has struck. I'm missing 2 of these. In fact, 2 are missing. Alright, I'm getting it hooked up here. I just got it plugged in. But I forgot to show you guys, I put an oil cooler in. I completely forgot about this thing, actually, because I'm not hooking it up yet, but the oil cooler is up front there. And then here's my sandwich plate. Here. What's this? Sandwich plate with just a temperature sensor on there. Oopsie, here goes my oil ring. But this is going on there. Sandwich plate between the oil cooler housing, sandwich plate, and filter. So these lines, it's mounted here. The lines go up and then over. You can see one of them right here. And then they go over through, basically right here. And then right now, they're just sitting right here for the time being. So I'm not gonna hook it up yet. I still have to, I'm missing an O-ring for this. I have the small one, but not the big one. I don't know where it went. I need both, so that's what it is. All right, so got the radiator installed. If you have a keen eye, you realize this hose right here, this power steering hose, it's weeping. If you look, it's slick. When I went to the parts store, I ended up getting the wrong hose. I think it's radiator hose because it's seeping right through it. I had a similar issue on my brake line, and I had to up that up to some SAE standard. But, so if you notice that, don't notice it, onto the valve cover. And that is so much better. That looks so good. Oh yeah, cleaned it up. I'm still using the stock bolts. I'll probably replace these, but if you have a keen eye in the video, you know I didn't put that one back there. I don't know where it went, but I'm missing a bolt. I just had it. I'm like, what the hell just happened? But it's fine. We're going to run it. I know it's going to seal. But this looks so much better than it did. And then here is one of the vents. I might cap that. I don't know, because on the iBed oil cooler, it also has one of those. But I was told by a buddy, you put those together, wire them into the catch can that I have. I don't have it installed right now, but put those together, and that's what I should probably do. Honestly, I think it looks pretty good. I think I'm just going to run a nice little 90, kind of like this one, over and out and then down and, you know, kind of do that. But we're getting closer. All right, so I got that coolant sensor wired in. I added an extra ground just in case. I was a little bit worried about that, not having enough ground points, but we got that installed. I also wired up the alternator while I was at it, and then oil pressure sensor in the back there. So we pretty much should be ready to go. I've actually already had this running on an engine stand, and then also I've had it running before. There's a couple things I had to fix, like some leaks and whatnot. But, so pretty much should be turn the key on and go. It's got 91 in it. It's all been tested, so really it should be pretty easy to go. The wiring's a mess, but it should work. Let's get it out of there. So it should pretty much fire right up. I know it doesn't have a tune on. Well, it's kind of a semi-decent startup tune on it. The tuner's going to come this weekend and fix some things up. So, all right. Oh. Uh-oh. Oh boy. That's not good. Dude, what? It's just start right up. Maybe it's my wiring? Alright, so you guys just watched that part where the car didn't start. I still haven't figured out what's going on. I really don't know what's going on because it has been running before and it ran really well. You know, no issue, started right up and went. On the computer it says sync loss. I fought this issue before, so I'm figuring it probably is a wiring harness at this point. I've been fudging it ever since getting it running, so I figured I might as well pull it out and redo it. That'll be the next video. Alright, so I need to get this project done because the tuner is going to work on it this weekend. Currently it's Monday. I shot that video you guys just watched on Saturday, so then edited it Sunday. But we need to get it done, and we're on a crunch, and I can tell you right now, I already made a mistake. I ordered the wrong part for the block for the dash, so I need a new one of these. So hopefully it'll be here Thursday. So we'll see. But stay tuned, keep watching, because obviously a better camera for next video. I didn't realize how bad the camera was till editing the video, but it is what it is. But here's a little preview.
Dude, what am I gonna do with that?